Over the past few months, the Senate appropriations process has been a shining example of how things should get done in Washington. These are times when people are divided. This is a closely divided chamber. But nevertheless, we can summarize the Senate's work in funding the government in one word: bipartisan. Bipartisan. Thanks to the phenomenal work of Appropriations Chair Patty Murray, who you'll hear from in a minute, and Vice Chair Susan Collins, and numerous colleagues on both sides, all 12 appropriation bills have been reported out of the committee with bipartisan support, the majority with unanimous support. That is incredible at a time when the country is so divided. And it's a beacon, and it's a great example, and a great example to the House of Representatives. This month, one of the Senate's top priorities will be to keep the government open beyond the September 30th deadline. Both parties in both chambers will have to work together if we are to avoid a shutdown. So when the House returns next week, I implore, I beg my House Republican colleagues to follow the Senate's lead, to recognize that time is short. And the only way to avoid a shutdown is through bipartisanship in both the House and the Senate. House Republicans have their first chance to show their commitment to bipartisanship when they return next week. The last thing Americans need right now is a pointless government shutdown. A shutdown will hurt just about every American. And yet there are some on the hard right in the House who say they actually want a shutdown. It's hard to believe that they would be so callous about people's wants and needs and hopes and fears. Our economy has come a long way since the darkest days of COVID. Inflation slowing down. Job growth remains strong. The investments we've made through the infrastructure law, the CHIPS and Science Act, the Inflation Reduction Act are paying off with new projects, new jobs, and prices going down in so many areas, like drugs. We can't squander that all now. A shutdown is unnecessary and would harm many American families and businesses, just about everybody. But if both sides work in good faith, embrace bipartisanship as we've done in the Senate, avoid all or nothing tactics, my way or the highway tactics, which they tried to do on the debt ceiling, then there'll be no shutdown, and that'll be good news for the American people. Now, for the work ahead of us. Next week, we will take up 3 bills to start the minibus: Transportation HUD, Milcon, and Agriculture. I will file cloture tomorrow on the motion to proceed on this minibus, and we will vote on the motion to proceed Monday evening.
Wow, friends, this is huge news. The Biden administration has proposed some major changes that could affect millions of Americans. As many low-income households struggle to keep up with the rising cost of living nationwide, President Biden is now pushing for rent control laws to be enacted. Experts say this could negatively impact many Americans, especially seniors and retirees. My dear friends, please make sure that you watch until the end of this video for all of the latest information. Also, in a video later today, I will be announcing several winners for the Walmart gift card giveaway. If you would like to enter the weekly giveaway, friends, please click and like several of my videos, and then comment below the keyword of each video that you watch. The more videos that you comment on, dearest friends, the greater your chances of winning these giveaways. As rents close in on a record high, more Americans, including the federal government, are wondering if it's time for national rent control that will regulate rent increases and place restrictions on evictions. In January, the Biden administration announced a blueprint for a Renters' Bill of Rights and encourage federal governmental agencies and politicians to help tenants find, afford, and stay in housing. The blueprint is only guidance, not law or policy, only types of protections that renters need and how to achieve them. The blueprint explains how different agencies can play a role, but the one that has drawn attention is the Federal Housing Finance Agency's, the FHFA's request for public input on renter protections in Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac finance properties received thousands of comments, including from 17 Democrats, which are led by Senate Democrat Sherrod Brown. Their letter asks FHFA to condition Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac backed mortgages based on various tenant protections, including limits on egregious rent hikes. Rents have risen 25% or more than $400 since 2019. Feeling frustrated, many Americans have coalesced around rent control as a solution. But critics say this will only push rents higher. They say a national plan to increase housing stock is a better solution, but takes much longer to implement. After 2 years of elevated inflation, Americans are tapped out. Many cannot afford soaring rents, exacerbated by housing shortage, and need a quick relief. From 2019 to 2021, the share of renters spending more than 30% of their income on their housing rose 2.6 percentage points to 49%. Rent control would prevent corporate landlords from profiting from using low-interest, government-backed financing while raising rents and evicting tenants. Though that may be true, critics say rent control could hurt millions of Americans, including some who supplement their retirement with rental income. The average long-term U.S. mortgage rate fell again this week, but remains near the 22-year high it hit 3 weeks ago. This is little relief for house hunters facing persistently high prices and a near historic low number of homes for sale. High rates can add hundreds of dollars a month in costs for borrowers, limiting how much they can afford in a market already unaffordable to millions of Americans. They also discourage homeowners who are locked in to low rates 2 years ago from selling their current homes. Mortgage rates have been climbing in recent weeks, echoing moves in the 10-year Treasury yield, which lenders use as a guide to pricing loans. The yield, which 2 weeks ago neared its highest level since 2007, has been hovering above 4% since August, as bond traders weigh whether recent economic data increase the likelihood that the Federal Reserve will decide it needs to keep interest rates higher for longer periods of time. High inflation drove the Federal Reserve to raise its benchmark interest rate 11 times since March 2022, lifting the Fed funds rate to the highest level in 22 years. While mortgage rates do not necessarily mirror the Fed's rate increases, they tend to track the yield on the 10-year Treasury note. Investors' expectations for future inflation, global demand for U.S. Treasuries, and what the Fed does with interest rates can influence rates on home loans. The average rate on a 30-year mortgage remains more than double what it was 2 years ago, when it was just 2.88%. Those ultra-low rates spurred a wave of home sales and refinancing. The sharply higher rates are now contributing to a very low limit of available homes, as homeowners who locked in those lower borrowing costs 2 years ago are now very reluctant to sell and jump into a higher rate on a new property. The lack of housing supply has weighed on sales of previously occupied U.S. homes, which are down 22.3% through the first 7 months of this year, versus the same stretch in 2022. Friends, please let me know how the housing market is in your city or state. Well, my magnificent and most marvelous friends, that is the end of my daily stimulus update video for today. My dear friends, in a video later today, I will be announcing several winners for the Walmart gift card giveaway. If you would like to enter these weekly giveaway, friends, please click and like several of my videos, and then comment below the keyword of each video that you watch. The more videos that you comment on, friends, the greater your chances of winning these giveaways. Thank you and have a wonderful and very blessed Friday.